What are you trusting in? What are you trusting in? Good pandemic morning. I was thinking about this morning as I was getting into the kitchen planning to cook today that Clorox has become my new best friend. And I was thinking about the voices that I listen to. I saw the news this morning, and the CDC said, and the president said, and our governor said, and our mayor said. I mean, all the voices. And what are we listening to? And I was thinking about God said, and God said, and that's the voice I need to be trusting. And so I was looking up some verses of God saying, and what God was saying. And I really think that in a pandemic and in life in general, this is the voice we need to be listening to. What is God saying? There was a verse that I saw in Job. I mean, who had more trouble than Job? Job 5:8. As for me, I would seek God, and to God would I commit my cause. And I think we're seeing a turning within the community of believers. You'd think we would already be there. But I think even for us, we can start depending on other things, our own self-reliance, and I got this, I can do this. Desperation can get you to a very good place to where you let go of the idea, I believe I can handle this, and we start seeking. John 14:1. This is right before Jesus is going to the cross, and this is very applicable as we're looking towards Easter this coming Sunday. And Jesus is talking to his disciples, knowing he's fixing to physically leave, and knowing they're going to have to be processing this and understanding what just happened here. And in John 14, he starts out saying, let not your hearts be troubled. Believe in God. Believe also in me. And then he goes on and he talks about all he has prepared for them, why he has come, and he is going to be bringing them to him at a point. He's the mansions that are prepared for them. And if it were not so, I would have told you. So this is an encouraging word as we're in the word and we're seeing that God's got a bigger plan than Johnson City 2020, a pandemic, my IRA, my health. There's a lot more going on here. There's a lot more going on here than just me. In Psalm 85:8, that was another good one I found. This was the son of Korah, and it was a prayer for revival. And I think this is a good prayer for us today in our personal lives, in our families, in our city, in our community, in our world. Let me hear what God the Lord will speak. Let me hear what he says. For he will speak peace to his people, to his saints, but let them not turn back to folly. I used to, this has been going on, 3 weeks? We wanted our life back. And, the more that we seek God in this and think about this, it's like, no, I don't know that that's exactly what we need. Maybe we need new normal. Let us not turn back to our folly. Sometimes I think our desires have been somewhat skewed. And I'm praying, Lord, give me an appetite for you. An appetite for you. I talk a lot about food and things like that, and it's a blessing. It's a gift from him. And he provides for us, and we're very grateful. But the appetite that we really want to find fulfilled, or filled, not fulfilled, that we want filled is our appetite for him as we are seeking him. In Psalm 20, verse 7, David, he's setting out to go to war. You feel like we're at war here. And as he goes out to war, he talks about how the things we can trust in, some trust in chariots and some in horses, but we trust in the name of the Lord our God. We can trust in Clorox and social distancing and our masks and all the rest. And that's good. That is good. We don't want to be flippant and we don't want to be fearful. But bottom line, at the end of the day, what our day revolved around was the ultimate trust in the Lord our God, for Him to keep us safe and for Him to accomplish what He's setting about to accomplish here. And He notices what we're seeking and where we're putting our faith and our trust. In Psalm 53:2, David is speaking in this particular psalm, and I love this. It says, God looks down from heaven on the children of man to see if there are any who understand, who seek after God. Let's seek Him today as we get in the kitchen and enjoy the provision He's given us, but with that focus and with that mindset of who He is, and He's in control and He's in charge. It's going to be a good pandemic day in Him. This is what we're cooking from today, Ree Drummond's new cookbook. And the recipe that we're going to make today, it's a 1-layer cake. It's called 11 Carton cake. And I want to go over just a few ingredients because you may not have what you need in inventory for this particular cake. The first thing being this yogurt. This particular yogurt, it needs to be 6 ounces because this is our measuring cup for the rest of the cake. It's called 11 Carton cake. It's a French recipe and it's a fun cake to make, and I think your kids would enjoy making it. I understand they're home with you now. I personally am an empty nester, and so it's just me, Carl, and the dog. But for those of you with children, this would be a good activity for them. And it would be fun to just continue filling up this carton and dumping it. You don't even need a mixer, which is good because I don't have one. Mine met an untimely death. So you can just mix it up in your bowl. But as for the ingredients, to give you a quick rundown, the 6-ounce vanilla yogurt, it calls for cake flour. I think if you don't have cake flour, you could use regular flour, but maybe sift it and look online to see what's the adjustment to change one for the other. Hershey cocoa. You need some cocoa. You may or may not have that. Mini, as in M-I-N-I, chocolate chips. It needs to be those little bitty ones because I got to fit in this sucker and get them out. Plus, it'll be distributed throughout the cake. So the mini chocolate chips. And I think everything else is pretty common and you should have it on hand. So let's get it all together and we will get ready to make 11-cup cake. All right, I have dumped my yogurt in the bowl. Now I have filled it up with Wesson oil, and you know, I'm debating 6 ounces to the very, very top, but obviously not pouring over. It must be a loose measurement because I'm thinking, I bet I'm getting a little more because I'm sure the yogurt's not filled to the absolute top. So then you put your oil. Then, and this just astounds me, I'm going to measure 6 ounces of sugar into this. Not quite to the top. All right, you can dump to an extent, but you got sugar in there. So just drag it out best as you can. Probably if you're doing this with your kids, you'll let them do the pouring and the dumping, and then you maybe need to do the work to get the rest of the leftovers out. Okay, hang on to that cup. And do you know, when I made it before, after I had finished working the cake up, I thought, phew, threw the cup, and so I threw it away. Well, I got to the icing. You even used this cup for the icing. Yeah, I did have to pull it out of the trash can. And for Tracy, if you're happening to see this, because you're who got that cake, I washed this. I thought she would die to think I pulled this out of the trash can. It was on the top, and I washed it real, real, real good before I used it for the icing. Okay, eggs, 2 eggs, and I go ahead and whip them up, mix them up with my fork, just because I don't think you can do it quite as good. I didn't want the white showing. I think it's easier to mix it when you do it and then dump it. Okay, so we'll stir this up, and then we're gonna be filling this cup up with our cake flour in just a second. Well, you know how persnickety I am about weighing flour. You've got to put 2 6-ounce cups of cake flour in this. And as I'm putting it in, spooning it in, I've already put 1 in, I'm just getting this stuff everywhere. It's making me a nervous wreck. But I did make this one other time, and it worked out fine. It was not dry in the least, so I think it'll be okay. So, there's my flour. You've got to dump. You can imagine. The oil's been in here. The yogurt's been in here. I got flour. I've got a lining of flour. But most of it's come out pretty clean. So I think it'll work. All right, the next thing is 1 whole cup of cocoa, Hershey's cocoa. Ooh. Here again, I'm measuring over my bowl. This is going to be a cake that you might want to eat early in the day. What with all this chocolate, plus those mini chocolate chips. It might keep you up. You dump that cocoa. Get the last little bit out. All right, I had already put a 1/2 teaspoon of soda and a 1/2 teaspoon of baking powder in this before I had added the flour. Okay, the next thing we're doing is 1½ teaspoons of vanilla. I love vanilla. Usually if it calls for 1½, I do 2. If a little's good, a lot's even better. Then we've got, it calls for whole milk. I did have whole milk, but I don't anymore. And so, in this sloppy mess, we're gonna pour 2% milk, 6 ounces of it. Now, if I had, but I'm out of it, there's a pandemic, you know. If I had some 1/2 and 1/2, which I typically have on hand, I would have poured about 3/4 with 2% milk and then finished filling it up with the 1/2 and 1/2. But I don't have it. We'll just save a little calories here. Okay. So now we will gently stir this, bring it together and get it smooth, and then we will add our mini chocolate chips. Okay, everything's mixed up. I'm gonna fill this on up to the top. Can't have too much chocolate, surely. The kids are gonna love this. They're gonna love making it, and they're gonna love eating it. And so is your husband, and so are you. I told Carl these husbands are who need to be encouraging me and thanking me, because their wives are trying these recipes and they're the benefactor. I've gotten a lot of comments from different ones of you who are actually making this stuff, and I'm so excited about it. I think that's fun. Okay, we mix this up and it is ready to put into our prepared pan. Don't throw this away. you're going to use it. However, I would wash it out because our icing is vanilla. It isn't chocolate, and that's a chocolate mess. I've got a prepared pan. I just sprayed it. Sometimes I spray and flour. Other times I don't. If I'm taking it to Tracy, I will do it the right way because I want it to come out good and be perfect. If it's me, Carl, and the dog, not that Rudy has any of this, mind you, I'm not as particular or persnickety. So anyway, we will get every bit of this out. We will put it in a 350-degree oven, is what it calls for. However, mine cooks a little hot, so I'm going to back mine down to about 325. Check your oven if you're unsure how yours is heating. Put a thermometer in there and check it. And it cooks for 35 to 38 minutes. Soon there will be cake. The cake is out of the oven. It has cooled. I have mixed together the butter and I have done one cup of the confectioner sugar. It called for 2, but I'm halving it because I didn't want much icing. You might want the full amount. Because my butter was softened, I'm able to mix this up very, very easily and efficiently. Ree called for using the mixer, but I see no reason, even if you had a mixer, I see no reason to dirty all that with this buttery stuff. So that's good to go. I'm going to show you a little secret on getting a cake out of your pan and turned back right side up. So I run a knife around the edge. I have a piece of that silicone sheet that's cut for the size of the cake pan, and that keeps it hopefully from sticking on the bottom. I want it to wind up on the green plate, so I'm going to turn it upside down on the other plate. I felt it drop. So there it is, dropped onto this plate. Then take your plate you want to use, line it up, and flip it again. And there you have it. Gorgeous. Then you're just going to take this icing. It is totally cool. You don't want the cake to not be cool because it'll melt this butter. It will melt it. All right, I'm going to finish spreading this and then we'll come back and decorate the top with our mini chocolate chips. All of that. It is cake. Isn't that beautiful? It's a showstopper. There's a lot of times when we unexpectedly need to come up with a dessert. Maybe you need to take it to somebody. Maybe you've got someone coming to your house. The gift of hospitality. Don't cut that short. It is such a useful and loving gift, and we need to exercise it. Anyway, there are very few ingredients that you would have to have on hand. That yogurt, basically, you know, have you some yogurt in the fridge, and it's got a long shelf life anyway. And the Hershey cocoa and some mini chocolate chips, and you can whip this together. Or it can just be a treat for your own family. So Carl's going to be so excited. He's going to come in for lunch today, and he's not expecting this. So it's just a great way to treat your own family and show love.
Okay, we're in Kathy's kitchen. She made a cake this morning, so we're going to test it out right here.
I eagerly await. What do you think, really? Seriously?
It's great.
If the camera wasn't on, what would you tell me privately?
It's great.
It is good, isn't it?
It's great. Great.
Tell me what it is you like about it.
I like the texture and the icing. And them little chips on top of it.
I cut the icing so it's not quite as sweet. I like the texture too. It's got a denseness. It's not too fluffy. I don't like too fluffy a cake.
Very good.
I get a 10.
This pandemic is a working for us.